Tonight, round two. Four political rivals spar again on the debate stage, this time in English.
Healthcare, spending our
intrusion.
If I may,
The worst
may I finish? May I finish?
The contest gets down to the wire in the countdown to voting day.
6 homes,
and I appreciate neither Liberals or NDP are very good with math, but in that the year I was the Minister of Vice.
Will the fiery exchanges in this final square-off swing voters? Frightening moments on a U.S. campus. How the mass shooting suspect got hold of the weapon.
The gun doesn't do the shooting, the people do.
Caught on camera. What followed an American citizen's failed airplane hijack attempt at knife point. Plus, a critical breakthrough in the quest to find life beyond Earth.
It is completely game-changing for science.
And kicking off a league of their own. A cherished goal in Canadian pro soccer makes history.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. We begin tonight with breaking news and a security situation in Montreal as we come on the air tonight that has forced the cancellation of the post-debate leaders' press conference after tonight's English language face-off, the final one before Election Day.
You want to save people $2,000, but cut their dental care, which is thousands of dollars.
False.
Cut their child care, which is thousands of dollars. Cut pharmacare coverage, which is thousands of dollars.
False.
That's not a very good math deal right there. You're going to save people $2,000, but cost them tens of thousands of dollars. That's why you cannot afford Conservatives.
Mr. Carney, Justin Trudeau's staffers are actually here with you at this debate in Montreal, writing the talking points that you are regurgitating into the microphone. How can we possibly believe that you are any different than the previous 10 years of Liberal government?
25 seconds left in this segment for you to respond to that.
Look, I do my own talking points. Thank you very much.
Let's get to CTV senior political correspondent Mike Couture joining us now live from Montreal. And Mike, we'll get to some of those testy exchanges in just a moment, but I want to ask you first about that security situation in Montreal where you are on the ground, what you're seeing and what you're hearing.
Yeah, for right now, Omar, it seems like things have calmed down, but certainly earlier they were super tense. About the middle of the debate, we were getting word that those post-debate press conferences could have been canceled. And then immediately following it, Michel Cormier, who's the executive director of the Leaders Debate Commission, did go before reporters to say that, yes, in fact, they would not be able to hold them, saying that they didn't feel they could actually properly guarantee a secure environment. And then following that, we were outside here when we saw a number of members of the media who were following some of these leaders around the country. They were being followed by some of these right-wing media outlets who did the previous night monopolize some of the questions from the leaders' debate at those press conferences from the French language leaders' debate, and it started to get testy and physical as well. That is why Montreal police were here, because they were concerned about that type of security breach, and that is what had happened. Right now, Omar, everything seems to be calmed down, and it seems like everybody is now focused on that debate.
All right, and turning to that debate, the substance of it, Mike, walk us through some of the more memorable exchanges.
Yeah, it was interesting because you played some of those exchanges, but I think a lot of people were expecting the two frontrunners to really go head-to-head here. Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservatives, and Mark Carney, the leader of the Liberal Party, and they didn't disappoint. We knew that Mark Carney was going to be the focus of a lot of attacks, and he was. Have a listen to some of those exchanges.
I know it may be difficult, Mr. Poilievre. You spent years running against Justin Trudeau on the carbon tax, and they're both gone. Okay, they're both gone, and we're in a new
impersonation of them with the same policies tonight.
Very different. Look, I'm a very different person from Justin Trudeau.
It was certainly a lot more feisty than it was yesterday in French. You can understand why, Omar, because, of course, that is not the mother tongue of 3 out of the 4 leaders on that stage. But, of course, as you heard in that clip, and as we've heard during the campaign, Pierre Poilievre trying to tie Mark Carney to the previous Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, and he did it again right here.
Now, in retrospect, that you look back on the Liberal decisions that you advised Justin Trudeau to take, will you look at the camera in the eye and apologize to the many people who suffered as a result of the inflationary policies that you advised Justin Trudeau to implement?
You know, I said earlier, but I'm going to say it again. I know you want to be running against Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau isn't here.
Are you denying you were his economic advisor?
I did not provide any of that advice.
So now, Mike, after these two back-to-back debates, what we saw yesterday in French and today in English, in your view, is there a standout, a clear winner?
Yeah, I think the fact that Mark Carney was certainly a lot feistier tonight, that certainly stood out for me. And I think the fact that Pierre Poilievre was trying to effectively make his case for him to be Prime Minister, that stood out as well. And including the fact that Jagmeet Singh was taking a lot bigger swings than I think we've ever seen him take on a debate stage before. And I think that we'll see now going forward whether or not they'll continue those types of conversations as we continue on the rest of this campaign, Omar.
All right, Michael Couture in Montreal. Mike, stay safe, and thank you for this report tonight. Let's get to CTV's chief political correspondent, Vassy Kapelos, right now. And Vassy, an interesting moment at the end of the debate. Each leader had a chance to ask another a question, and each directed his question to Mark Carney, while Carney himself directed his question to Poilievre, which really reflects what we've been seeing in the polls. Carney and Poilievre as the two frontrunners in this race.
Yeah, very much so. I think you're exactly right to point out, Omar, that tonight's debate punctuated what public opinion data has shown us throughout the entirety of the campaign, that these two parties right now enjoy almost historic levels of support. As Nick Nanos likes to point out, the Conservatives at any other election, if they had where they're polling right now, would have won a majority. It's just that the collapse of the NDP has led to gains on the part of the Liberals. And as a result, that really manifested through the debate tonight, where everybody had their eyes pointed, as Mike pointed out, on Carney. And Mr. Carney was very much directing any opportunity he had to go at somebody at Mr. Poilievre. So I think, if anything, you can walk away thinking about this debate it's that storyline, that narrative of the coalescing of support around these two parties was reinforced tonight.
We are, of course, Vassy, heading into a long weekend, Easter long weekend. Advanced polling begins tomorrow. For those undecideds out there, does tonight change anything?
I wish I knew for sure right now, Omar, but the truth is that I don't. I think there are about 6% of voters, eligible voters, who consider themselves truly undecided at this point. But there's another 15% beyond that who are open to voting for other parties. I think that both Mr. Poilievre and Mr. Carney did what they hoped they would do tonight. I think their base is probably solidified, and I think that they, could have either made an effective case to those 20% of voters who are open to voting to other parties. So I really think it's kind of a toss-up at this point. We shall see, Omar.
We shall see. All right, Vassy, thank you for this tonight. Appreciate it. Not on the stage again tonight, the Green Party, which was disinvited from both debates. Today, the party said it was exploring legal options and became the first party to release a fully costed platform. Here is CTV's Jeremy Charon.
A pitch from Canada's Green Party leader today for anyone he says is fed up with the status quo.
We must do better. Our plan isn't just a list of promises, it is a vision.
That vision, Jonathan Pedneau says, is rooted in social justice, collective sovereignty, and respect for the planet.
A vision where housing is a right, not a luxury. A vision where every person earns enough to live with dignity.
In releasing its fully costed platform, the Green Party promises to build more than 1 million affordable homes, reduce taxes for Canadians making less than $100,000, and increase the corporate tax for businesses making large profits. When it comes to energy, Pedneau says his party would make Canada a leader in clean energy and end the fossil fuel era.
We can invest instead in wind, in solar, in geothermal energy. We can and we will build a national grid powered entirely by renewables.
The party's platform also pitches green ways to reduce Canada's dependence on the U.S. It all comes just a day after Pedneau was disinvited from the debates, which he calls a big mistake, and says his party is weighing next steps.
We'll continue to explore every option, but we need some time to do that. In the meantime, I think the Commission should resign.
The Green Party is the first to release its fully costed platform. Other parties have hinted theirs are coming soon, but have faced some criticism for not having done so yet. Omar?
All right, Jeremy, thank you. Turning now to a dramatic shooting on the Florida State University campus in Tallahassee that has killed 2 people and injured at least 6 others.
My hands were shaking, just adrenaline kicked in, and I really didn't know what to do.
The suspect who was shot by police is among the injured. The 20-year-old student at the university is the son of a police officer who had access to his mother's weapons, one of the weapons found at the scene. Gunshots were reported around noon near the Student Union building. The campus issued an active shooter alert and urged students and staff to shelter in place. And shocking video from inside a small plane in Belize that was hijacked by a U.S. citizen with a knife in midair who stabbed passengers before getting shot.
As the plane landed, he shot the hijacker. He had a licensed firearm. Wow. And so he was the one who shot the hijacker. And he also handed his firearm over to us. Sadly, that passenger is in a critical condition because he was stabbed.
The hijacker died of his wounds. 3 passengers on board were injured. The feud between Donald Trump and the chairman of the U.S. Federal Reserve, which operates independently, intensified today. The president blasting Jerome Powell for not lowering interest rates and lashing out with this threat.
I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast, believe me.
That rebuke coming after Powell delivered this warning yesterday about Trump's tariffs.
Tariffs are highly likely to generate at least a temporary rise in inflation.
Powell says he needs more clarity before making a move.
We're never going to be influenced by any political pressure. People can say whatever they want.
Powell's term ends as chair next year, and he says he will not be pushed out by the president because Trump has no legal authority to fire him. Trump today also met with the conservative Italian prime minister, the first European leader to visit the White House since he announced his new tariffs, promising a deal with the continent.
We're going to make a trade deal, I fully expected.
And saying there's been progress with Japan, Mexico, and that he's talking to China. The 2 major Chinese e-commerce sites, Temu and Shein, say they plan to raise prices for U.S. customers next week because of U.S. tariffs. Canadians have taken a stand against those tariffs by changing their travel plans to the U.S. And this long weekend, the first since the trade war launched, will be a test to see if the trend line we've been seeing holds. CTV's Kamil Karamali explains.
The alcohol or tobacco products?
Crossing the border this Easter long weekend will look much different.
This is a significant test.
It's the first holiday weekend after Canada's relationship with the United States took a turn for the worse when President Donald Trump triggered a trade war. So in many ways, this weekend will allow Canadians to gauge what future holiday travel to the U.S. could look like.
And we're all quite eager to see what the numbers are for this weekend.
For one, border lineups are expected to be much shorter. In March of last year, there were more than 4 million travelers who crossed the border into the U.S. by land. This past March, that number plummeted down to 3.1 million travelers, a drop of more than 900,000.
You have uncertainty that breeds fear, and people are afraid to cross.
There are also expectations of tougher border policies and stricter enforcement of entry requirements. That could mean border agents may ask more questions.
Well, the best way I can explain it is it's not like the rules of the game have changed. It's just that the refs are calling it differently.
Or even potentially search phones and laptops.
I don't think the average person needs to really worry about that. Maybe if you're an academic who's blasted Trump for months and months on social media, you might get singled out.
Travel experts say for the most part, the experience won't be drastically different. Just make sure to have the necessary information on hand, like knowing exactly the dollar value of the goods you're bringing back to Canada. Omar.
All right, Kamil, thank you. Coming up.
Completely game-changing for science and transforming our understanding of the universe.
An inside look at the strongest evidence yet of a life on a distant planet. Plus, a Canadian rocker reveals his pick for Prime Minister. Scientists say they have found the strongest evidence yet of life beyond our solar system. CTV's Andrew Johnson now on the potentially landmark discovery and what it could mean for us here on Earth.
An alien planet outside our solar system that may be teeming with microbial life. It's got scientists pretty excited.
It is completely game-changing for science and transforming our understanding of the universe.
They made the discovery using the James Webb Space Telescope based on what it detected in the planet's atmosphere.
They've taken this measurement over and over and over, and their calculations show that the atmosphere of this planet seems to have the chemicals in it, dimethyl sulfide or dimethyl disulfide, that on Earth are only ever made by living things. We don't know of any geological process that can make those other than life.
The planet orbits a red dwarf star that is smaller and less bright than our sun, 124 light years from Earth, trillions and trillions of kilometers away.
We believe that there very likely are places out there where things are walking around, but you can't see them from this far away. So what we look for instead are the chemical signatures of life.
The findings still need to be confirmed, but the breakthrough could lead to the detection of actual alien life within just a few years.
What we really want is to look through a telescope and see a flying saucer with aliens in it waving back at us, and for them to say, hey, it's us, and us to say, oh, good, we finally found you, and then we have a conversation. That's the dream, right? We're not getting that anytime soon.
No flying saucers yet, but the indication of life on this ocean world many worlds away is potentially a big step forward in figuring out if we've got company in the cosmos. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
Still ahead.
Let's celebrate this league, these incredible athletes.
How Canada has scored new success in the beautiful game. Canada's new women's professional soccer league kicked off in style in Vancouver last night, and a record turnout is expected in Toronto this weekend. CTV's Adrian Gabriel now on the excitement reaching fever pitch.
Let's celebrate this league, these incredible athletes.
A worthy celebration rising from the pitch, setting the stage for a historic first goal. And with that, Canada's first professional women's soccer league is up and running. More than 14,000 fans took in the Northern Super League's inaugural game at Vancouver's BC Place.
Super duper fun. So amazing to bring my daughters to this.
A professional league for women on Canadian soil has been years in the making, with co-founder Diana Matheson, a former national soccer star, helping make the decades-long dream a reality.
A lot of us were joking it felt like our wedding day in a lot of ways. But the fact that we did build this from scratch, built a league for women, by women, we're an independent league, that's also now a strength internationally.
That strength comes from those involved in the league, including soccer royalty Christine Sinclair, who's now part owner of Vancouver Rise FC.
This is the time women's sports around the world is growing, soccer specifically, and it's just a smart move, and I cannot wait to see where this league goes.
And at its heart, inspiring the next generation of Canadian athletes who now have a women's league to look up to and call their own.
I like that the girls finally have a team in Canada.
The league now sets its sights on BMO Field, where this Saturday afternoon, AFC Toronto will play its first game ever in front of a sold-out crowd against the visiting Montreal Roses FC. The historic game hits the pitch at 4 p.m. Eastern. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Toronto.
Toronto rapper Drake has expanded his defamation lawsuit against his own record label over Kendrick Lamar's famous diss track.
They not like us. They not like us. They not like us.
Drake previously sued Universal Music Group for defamation, saying the song Not Like Us includes false allegations about him and encourages vigilante violence. An updated complaint accuses the label of further defaming Drake by playing the track at the Grammy Awards and the Super Bowl halftime show, viewed by more than 100 million TV viewers combined, thereby exposing the song to those who may not have heard it before. Universal Music says the lawsuit is frivolous and reckless. And another famous Canadian artist is publicly weighing in on the federal election and Donald Trump's annexation threat. Neil Young, in an open letter to Mark Carney, wrote, "It takes more than bravado to fight this kind of threat, and I believe you are the person our country needs to lead us through this crazy situation. Still ahead, taking a voter temperature check in the polar bear capital of the world. And finally for us tonight, we are bringing you a campaign road story from a place known as the polar bear capital of the world. Churchill, Manitoba is where we sent CTV's Alex Karpa to speak to voters about what's at stake for them and what matters to them most this election, just days ahead of voting day.
Known as the polar bear capital of the world, Churchill receives tens of thousands of visitors every year, but for the 800 or so permanent residents who live here, it's much more than that. The community is unique, home to the port of Churchill, Canada's only Arctic seaport serviced by rail, and many now want to see it become a major trading hub.
And that is certainly important to me. When the port is humming, then the rest of the community hums as well.
The province is investing in it, but locals here also want to see federal leaders commit to revitalizing the port.
It's just a matter of putting some money into the infrastructure again, where that day, I think it could become a reality.
Some residents I spoke to here say they feel neglected and forgotten about, whether it's improving the high cost of living or the lack of action on the town's port and rail. Soaring prices for groceries is also a frustration for residents who shop at the town's main grocery store.
It's hard to make ends meet sometimes. It's hard to get out of town. Everything's just too expensive.
And it's not just groceries, but overall living costs too.
Max rent for a 3-bedroom house is like $1,300. Like, there's a lot of people that have a hard time paying that.
At the town's Arctic Trading Company store, the conversation isn't just about housing costs, but availability.
Just the lack of accommodations here, the lack of housing is a major problem in our community also.
Workers here also worry about the cost of flights in and out of the community.
There's no way that I would be able to travel with my husband and my 2 kids to Winnipeg, where I've grown up my entire life. That's almost close to a down payment on a house.
For others, though, the government's sudden shift in focus to the Arctic lately comes as welcome news.
We've always stated that the North would play a role. It's taken a long time, and it's finally happening.
Locals say revitalization is critical and will not only help the town, but will benefit the entire region. Alex Karpa, CTV News, Churchill, Manitoba.
And that's a snapshot of this Thursday. Hope you can join Heather tomorrow. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching, and good night.
Now more than ever, Canadians need to know where our leaders stand. CTV News keeps you informed on the issues that hit home. This election, connect to Canada's most trusted news source, CTV News, now more than ever.